On today's episode of the NASM-CPT Podcast, I had the pleasure of speaking with special guest Dennis Dunphy, co-founder of Stick Mobility, tools that I like, that I use, that I have in each of my gym locations. And today we spoke about mobility of the hips, mobility of the spine, and building mobility outside of just the sagittal plane, i.e. frontal and sagittal plane. My favorite line of the day that he used was that people's spiral line isn't spiraling. We chat about the importance of building strength and range of motion and how a simple stick with some bend to it and a couple of rubber end caps on each end can support you in that process. Make sure that you like, subscribe, follow, and leave a 5-star review. Now here's my conversation with Dennis Dunphy.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Rick Richey, winner of the Share Care Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Rick Richey, and today I want to talk about some interesting concept that, it's been going around for a while, and I got to say, it's what I like about this is the utility of a cool thing we're going to be talking about today. And the reason I bring this up is a few years ago when my buddy Chad was working with me at the gym. And, I would have a dowel, I'd have a broomstick or something or another. And one day he was just like, you're going to have to upgrade, bro. And I was like, okay, why? What do you want? Tell me what you want me to get. I'll get whatever you want. He's a great trainer. I wanted to have him with me. He goes, you should check out the Stick Mobility. And I was like, all right, cool. So I looked it up and I see these cool orange dowels with rubber ends on it. And I was like, all right, this is what you want? And he goes, yeah. And I said, which ones? He was like, all of them. So I've got a few gyms in New York City. So I went in and I ended up buying these sticks. And it didn't take long before people at that gym started to really like them so much that I bought them, put them in every one of my other gyms. So now anytime I open a location, this is just part of the purchase process, the purchase plan that I go through, and I add these devices. These are the Stick Mobility. Now, I'm not doing this for a commercial for Stick Mobility. I'm doing this because I happen to have one of the co-founders of the company here with us today. So today I want to welcome Dennis Dunphy to the podcast. Dennis, how you doing, man?
Good, Rick. Rich, how are you doing today?
No,
Thanks
man,
for having
I'm
me
doing
on.
really
I appreciate
well.
it.
Hey, I'm grateful we were able to make this happen and get you on the show. And look, I want to hear from you. I'm going to have you give a little bit about your background. And as a co-creator, co-founder, just tell us a little bit about not just your origin story, because I want to know, this is part inspiration, right? So these guys are personal trainers, listen to the podcast. And so for them to hear people's story about what did you do to get your start, it's pretty inspiring, but not just that, the company itself and an origin story there. So go ahead, I'll let you just take the mic and run with it.
All right. Well, thanks, Rick. I appreciate it. Well, we used to do there's a chiropractor over in Santa Cruz, California, and he showed us how he uses rattan sticks to help his clients do some stretches to offset his work in the chiropractic field. So we learned under him, and then we realized, well, mobility is strength and strength is mobility. So they're not exclusive of each other. So we understood that applying some isometric components with a stick can really gain some really fantastic feedback and some great results. So we said, hey, we're going to come up with our own system. And that's where Stick Mobility came to be. So we took about a year just playing around with it, see what we could tap into, combining the stick with isometrics and concepts of what movement is or should be. And that's how it grew. And we just started locally. And we figured, okay, well, we'll just help establish our private practices. It'll help improve our ability to help our clients. And then we went on to social media in May of 2015 is when we did our very first post. And the community just they told us, hey, we want more of this content. And so that's how it grew. Um, and it was great validation. And I think the big validation came from when the Cincinnati Bengals reached out, Chip Morton. And he said, hey, what do you guys have there? And so we met with him not too long after we first hit social media. And Chip was all like, this is just awesome stuff that you guys have. So we used the PVC rattan sticks to start with, but we knew we needed a better product, something that was much more durable, something that gave a lot better feedback than what those two other things could give you. So we had some clients who are in the aeronautics industry. So they are the ones that came up with the prototypes for the sticks. So Neil and I played around with them and said, okay, this is what we're going to go with. And that's how it started, and it's grown ever since. And so we've been able to have the benefit of having some distributors internationally. We've had some wonderful coaches who've come to our education courses and become part of the stick mobility community.
Gotcha. What's the difference with the PVC and what's being used? Like, why is the product any better with that?
The thickness,
Okay.
the thickness of PVC, it's really thin walled when you go to like a Home Depot or any hardware store, and it's going to be the problem is when you use that, it doesn't give you enough in feedback. It's just too, it's not as resilient, it's not as strong, so it doesn't really give you what you're looking for. The other thing too is because it's such a thin wall, it really warps pretty easily. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean we tell people, look, use what you have by all means. But the other thing too is when you tell somebody to kind of hang on a stick, they're like, is this thing going to hold my weight? So
Yeah. Right.
we
Right.
needed to make sure, yeah, right. We needed to make sure we had something that was going to allow the user to have the confidence to say, okay, like if I put my weight on a stick with my feet on the ground, that when I drop my weight, that this thing is going to be able to hold it.
Right. Well, and for a lot of the stuff that you guys do, it's not that it's just a vertical load on a stick. A lot of the things you do are purposeful bending of the sticks in order to get into certain positions. And I got to tell you, when I first started seeing people do that, I was like, I don't know, I don't know if that's going to hold. And I've had sticks in some of my gyms for years. They're still straight as an arrow. And they get put to task, especially by a core group of the trainers that just like live and breathe doing the mobility work with your product.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, when you use them correctly, you store them correctly, they're going to last you a long, long time. In fact, I've still got first generation sticks back when we used to, before the rubber caps that we have, the grips now, we used to use tennis wrap. So I've still got some of those first generation sticks floating around the gym here.
Gotcha. So why do you think this, not just the device, all right? So this is, again, not a commercial for stick mobility. Let's just go into mobility in general. Why has that been such a buzz in the fitness industry? And where do you think people are finding value in not just the stick, but the mobility that comes from usage?
I think, well, our industry, I mean, fitness, when you think about what it is from a general perspective, fitness is just about aesthetics primarily, right? That is the main driving source behind training. So the quality of movement is not really at the forefront of people's thoughts, right? And when you're 20 years of age, are you really thinking about what am I going to be like when I'm 60, 65, 70 years of age?
Didn't
It just
cross my
doesn't
mind when
happen,
I was
right?
that age.
Yeah, exactly, right? I mean, if you would have told me at the age of 20 that I should be more mindful and a little bit more strategic of what I'm doing, I would have been like, whatever, right? I mean, it's just the way we were, right? But then you get into your 30s and your 40s and things change and you're like, okay, well, I can either continue to do what I'm doing, which is probably the reason why I'm at where I'm at, or I can start to think about, okay, step back, reevaluate the process, so to speak, and say, okay, what do I need to change? What do I need to make different, right? And that's where I think people are starting to realize mobility is very valuable, right? You've got to be able to get from point A to point B easily, or relatively easily. And so whether that's from a standing position down to the ground and back up to a standing position, or going up the staircase or whatever it is, that all requires mobility. And so your ability to say, okay, I want to be able to do what I do now at the age of 30. I still want to be able to do that when I'm 60, 70 with relatively the same amount of output. Then I think you focus more on the intention behind your training. And with us, the sticks give just really valuable feedback that really it's been hard to find. I mean, I've been doing this 25 years, and until we created stick mobility, mobility work, it was okay. Here's your foam roller. Here's your strap. Okay, let's do this. Let's do that. But it just never really gave you the feedback that you really can get when you know how to use the sticks.
What are some of the main areas in mobility that you think are addressed by using this particular device? Because when I see it, I gotta be honest, like I see it, and I basically myself, I only use it for spinal mobility. But there's got to be something else. I don't know what they are because I haven't gone through any of the coursework that you guys have. But go through spinal mobility, because listen, dude, you hit the nail on the head. And I was having this conversation with a business partner just the other day. I saw him. He was doing a virtual session at the gym, and the entire time he was doing the session, he was on the floor. He was on a foam roller. He was doing this. He's bent over doing a foot to the butt quad stretch while and I was like, who are you right now? Because he's a jacked dude. And he was like, Rick, I still get my workouts in. I still crush it. But as I'm aging, I'm realizing that I'm making myself stiffer and stiffer and stiffer the more I do the lifting and not doing any of the flexibility or mobility work. So where does this tool come in? Because I agree with you. Like as we age, this is becoming more important. It's not as important when we're younger. And then also, like, what places in the body does this really address? And then I'll do my follow-up question, so I'm not overwhelming you with a scatter shot of questions here.
The primary areas for us really. Addressing the lateral movement, hips and spine, and rotation. If you look at programming, and I see some really amazing instructors out there, but when you look at their programming, it's just so sagittally dominant. And movement is torque, and it's your ability to create rotation on any plane of motion, right? So even a sagittal plane of motion is still, in theory, rotation, right? There's a push and a pull. So rotation is really key. So we want to make sure that the hips know how to, thigh bones need to be able to internally, externally rotate. That's very key. You need to have lateral and medial contraction and control of the thigh bones in the hip socket. The spine itself, cows are phenomenal. Great. You're working that sagittal plane. They're getting the segmentation of the spine, but now there's other planes, right? Now, can your spine segmentally move through the frontal plane? Can your spine really be open through the transverse plane? And those are the elements when we look at people's programmings that are really missing. So I think probably about 75, 80% of most people's programs are so sagittally dominant that you're like, okay. But when we really look at people's movements, how often outside of a gym, how often when we actually watch people move, are they just staying sagittal, right? So if your lateral line, which is the linchpin to connecting your front and back chains, if your lateral line isn't good, doesn't have great neuromuscular control, probably going to end up running into some type of issues somewhere down the road, right? If the spiral lines don't know how to spiral, if your rotational tissues aren't good at rotating, you're probably going to have some issues down the road. So I know a lot of people, like, they'll be like, all you talk about is the frontal plane and transverse plane. And I'm like, and I tell people, I'm like, because everybody else is doing the other. Like, everybody's got the sagittal, right? So I'm trying to bring awareness to the other stuff that people aren't killing a dead horse here, right? So I'm trying to bring the other stuff to the forefront so people understand the importance of it.
I love it. My quote of the day from you is, people's spiral lines are not spiraling. I'm taking that with me. That's
right? They're not. They're not.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true.
Right?
So when it comes to putting this programming together, what is it about, like, just using this stick that is helpful? And then, I have to say this, right? Like, there might be a few things with the stick that I use, but I guarantee that if I own the company, all I'd do all day long is bring a group of people and be like, come up with some cool stuff to do with this stick. Right. And so, and that's what's cool about it. Like, if I don't think about it, then, somebody else is. And then what's great for me is that when I see it and I see the stuff that you guys post, and I see like Chad and Morgan on the Instagram, I'm like, my body won't do that. I can't get into that position. But I'm gonna take what I see that I know is applicable to certain clients, and I take it and I run with it.
Yeah. We tell people, look, you see something that Chad and Morgan are doing, and you're like, what the hell? Yeah. And we say, okay, that is like, on a scale of 1 to 10, that's your 10, right?
Yeah.
And client Joe Schmo may be at a 4, right? But we tell client Joe Schmo, look, let's work at this, and perhaps you get to a 6 or a 7.
Yeah.
Which for that individual is life-changing, right? So you have your ceiling and you have your floor. And what we're looking for is, man, let's try to see where on the ceiling you can get to, right? And we have the pinnacle of what we could possibly get to, but let's work on where we can improve yourself. And so that's where I like to lock people into that. Like, look, we're going to say you're a 3 or a 4. We're going to work on getting you to a 5. And then if we get you to a 5 and you're feeling the difference in your day-to-day life when you're already at a 5, bending over to pick something up just feels much easier. You have more freedom of movement. Going to pick something up off a top shelf at a grocery store, you don't feel so restricted. It doesn't feel like such hard work reaching up to grab that object. That's life altering for a lot of people, right? So once we get there, now let's see what else we can do, right? What else can we build onto that? So that's where we're trying to, with the stick, it's just a really great feedback system, because when you can get somebody into a posture or a shape, the stick can allow you to help you get into those postures or your shapes. But now we're going to ask you to push or pull on the stick, because now you're in that posture. Now you're in that shape. Now can you express strength in that posture or that shape? And can you breathe, right? And the thing with the stick is the push and the pull switching instantaneously. And that's really a key element when you think about it, because you have your regressive tissues and your progressive tissues, right? So you've got the tissues that help you push away from your midline, and then you've got your tissues that help you pull back towards your midline. And the stick allows you to test both of those, whatever posture position you're in, instantaneously. You can change push or pull. And that's a really big element, because when we look at other tools, there's just not anything out there that allows you to do that.
Gotcha. There are different sizes of the sticks. I know we have, I don't know if there are more sizes than this, but I have 3 different sizes in the gym. Why? Like, what's the point of having the smaller stick, a medium stick, a long stick? Where does the rationale between those sizes come into play here?
So the smaller sticks are typically for our joint by joint mobilizations. They're also a little bit more portable for people. You can take them in your car relatively easily. Some people we've seen put them in their golf bag out on the course, and they can grab it and they can do some T-spine rotations, some quick hip drills if they want. Even with the short stick, if you travel with it and you want to do a monkey hang and you want to hang from it, and you're like, well, it's a 4-foot stick. How can I hang from that? Well, every hotel room has a desk, right? You put that thing on top of the desk, and now you have a 6-foot stick, and now you can hang from it, right? Yeah, I mean, my wife came up with that one. I got to give her credit. I was like, oh, dude, how do I not think of that, right? So I was like, oh, duh. So that's a really good thing. So, and not only that, but sometimes when we do our wrist drills, when we're talking about levers and strengthening the wrist component, the shorter sticks are better because it's not as much stress and load when we offset the lever to really test somebody's wrist articulations, or we're trying to strengthen them. So there's some different components that's some more reasons why we use the short stick. Also some floor-based exercises, pigeon poses, things like that, we use a short stick for. And then the longer sticks are probably going to be used for about 70% of your drills, because that's mostly the standing stuff. It allows you to bow the short sticks. You can't really bow into them. And so the longer sticks allow you that end range ability to actually push and pull into the stick.
Yeah, when I was in high school, I was a pole vaulter. And when I first got that long stick and I was doing the push and the pull, I was like, man, this feels really familiar. I have not yet flung my body in the air on one of those things, but it's definitely a familiar feeling to me.
Tell me. Quick note, pole vaulting is one of the most underrated athletic events of all time. I tell people that all the time. I'm like, if you watch a pole vaulter, don't shortchange them. I'm like, when we think about sports, what does everybody always say? Basketball, blah, 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 right? These are the greatest athletes. I'm like, have you seen a pole vaulter? What are you talking about? I'm like, I dare any basketball player to go do pole vaulting, and we're going to get some really good laughs, right?
I appreciate that.
The skill set is insane. It really is.
So thank you. There's another person. She's on our scientific advisory board. She was a collegiate pole vaulter, I believe, Dr. Allison Brager. And so we talk smack to each other about pole vaulting. But I did it at high school, so she's much more advanced than I am. But shout out to the sport. I will also tell you, my favorite thing about the sport is having the track athletes run over, and they're like, "Rick, give me that stick, man. Give me that pole." And they would run, and then they would just hit into the pit and let go and dive, because it is frightening to have it sling your body into the air. It's frightening.
Yeah. Dude, I can't even imagine. I've never done it, but I see what the skill set is to do it. And I love watching it. I'm just amazed when I watch it.
I appreciate it. Give me just a moment. I'm going to share this with everybody. This episode of the NASM-CPT Podcast is brought to you by NASM-1, the membership for trainers and coaches. Members enjoy unlimited access to hundreds of career resources. Get the Edge app to schedule and program clients. Enjoy half off all certifications and specializations, access to free CEUs, and more. All of this for just $35 a month. Go to nasm.org/membership to learn more about NASM-1. All right, let's talk just a little bit more about mobility. And I know that you mentioned things going on with the spine and the hip for mobility. I'm going to ask you a question. I see a lot of people, and we didn't used to talk about this very much, but hip internal rotation. There's a lot of people out there doing hip internal rotation drills, mobility drills. First of all, let me ask you, just from your perspective, Why? Why the heck is hip internal rotation so important to people? Are they just doing it to do it, to say it, or does it have a practical application to it? And then, secondly, how are you incorporating the modality, this tool to help build internal rotation at the hip?
Well, if you watch basketball, hip internal rotation is really key to change of direction, right? So basketball, any sport where you're being chased, right? Or you're trying to outmove an opponent. So that's a really key element. So quick change of direction. You're going to get some knee valgus. You're going to get that diving thigh bone in. So internal rotation is really key. Basketball, football, hockey. We have to internally rotate if we're, same thing, changing directions. It's a little more subtle, but internal rotation is very key. Just even getting in and out of your car. Like these are the things that we do day to day that a lot of people just don't think about. And if you don't have rotation of the thigh bone, the joint that's probably gonna take a lot of abuse is your knee. Because the amount of torque that the meniscus now has to deal with is amplified exponentially. And then the QL, the hips, a lot of low back issues. The QL gets stressed out. Getting pulled in. So those are some reasons why we say, hey, hip internal rotation is really important. I've seen clients for something as simple as pain when they get in and out of their car. I had somebody call me up. They're like, I have trouble. I hurt every time I get in and out of my car. I go, okay, that's something you do multiple times a day. We need to improve that so that way something that's mundane to the rest of us, but not to this individual, improves.
That's right. This is one of those examples of you don't realize how important something is until you lose it, and then it starts affecting other components of life, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other
All
thing
right,
too
man.
is
Go.
as we get older, we know people don't get up and down off the floor as much.
Right.
Right. So there's another reason, and a lot of that may be because they don't have the ability to rotate those thigh bones.
Yeah, I'll also say this because I do a lot of balance work, and I've got more than a handful of personal training clients that are in their 70s. And one of the things I use with them is I'll use the stick to do balance work. And what I like about it is because we have gym flooring, so it's a rubber flooring, and then having the rubber end caps give that a lot of stickiness so it doesn't slide. And that's you can't have something that slides when you've got somebody relying on this in order to maintain their balance and help maintain their balance. So it's just that there are little things that of this particular tool that you guys have cobbled together that like those rubber ends that I go, look, I could buy a broomstick. I could buy PVC pipe. You're going to spend extra on this, but they're like literally those extra components and the life of the tool itself is what makes the juice worth the squeeze when it comes to this.
Yeah, and the other thing that we get to is the weight difference. Like you can feel it, like
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like the long stick is about 3 pounds. Like that's substantial, right? You could buy a regular PVC pipe and cut it to 6 foot and some change, and it's going to be barely not even a pound, right? But when you the stick, I mean, that's one of the things that we get from users also is like, oh, they pick it up, they're like, damn, this is solid, and so right away your perspective changes on the tool.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I do want to say if there's anything that you want to hit up and talk about when it comes to this tool and mobility, please share it with us, like any parting words, and then also let us know where people can find Stick Mobility. And if they want to reach out to you, find you or follow you, let us know where to do that as well.
The thing that we want people to understand when they're using the stick is it's going to, number one, be a safe, effective tool for you to use, right? So it's going to allow you to utilize leverage and stability to help your body overcome that resistance, to get into those postures or those positions. you're using isometrics, so it's self-regulating, so you control the intensity. It's not controlled by an outside or external stimulus. It's all internally driven. So it allows you to really explore safely and effectively some positions or postures that you may not be used to, or that you need to really get into achieving because it's going to help you in the end result for doing something else. So that's our message to people that when they get the sticks, we're giving you on our platform. Our YouTube has got tons of videos. We have a lot of different drills that are going to benefit you on there. But then we also want you to be creative and figure and explore like Neil and I do. We just play around with the stick. We get into different postures and we go, oh, wow, I feel this when I do this. And I haven't felt that before. Let's write that down. Let's put that into the library. And it gives people that ability to feel liberated.
I love that. I love that. I appreciate that. Where can people find Stick Mobility? And if they want to follow you, how do they go about doing that as well?
On Instagram, it's Stick Mobility. Same on YouTube. On YouTube TV, we have Stick Mobility. Like I said just a few seconds ago, we have a ton of content. I think we have over 1,000 videos up there. We have
It's not enough. Give us more. Give us more.
we have actual follow-along workouts that we recorded during the pandemic that you can still use today. Cool. So you can go step by step and just follow along with the instructor through the workout, or we have specific target areas. If you're saying, okay, I want something for my shoulders, then you can go into that category and you'll have a ton of different content there to help you with your shoulder issues. For my personal private practice, I'm at Diamond Physique SJ on Instagram. And there you'll see the same principles that we use with the sticks carry over to any other tool, any other workout training that you're doing. So you'll see a mix of that, how I apply that with the sticks, with other tools. And then also I like to show videos of people doing things that humans are capable of doing that some of us may not think is a possibility.
Gotcha. Well, listen, I appreciate it. I appreciate you being here. And my wife's from Cincinnati, so you had me at Cincinnati Bengals. So I appreciate you. Thanks for being on the show.
Rick, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thanks for being with us. If you get a chance, like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family, and leave a review. If you've got questions for me, hit me up. You can do so on Instagram at dr.rickrichy or email me, rick.richey@nasm.org. Shout out to our producer, Eric Sorensen. Y'all keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM-CPT Podcast.